So welcome to VP Culture, course number 2. And on this lesson, we're going to be covering serotonin, the culture molecule. Serotonin is the master modulator. It is a chemical produced in the brain that goes between the synapses that changes the way synapses work. In fact, Paula Hart, PhD, calls serotonin the master modulator, and it upregulates all of the other and controls the other modulators and synaptic connections and synaptic transmitters within the brain. It has a vast effect on the brain. So it enters into the GPC connectors, which is a special back door into the neuron, into the nucleus of the neuron, and starts to change even the way the DNA expresses itself. So it has a long-term effect on your neuronal activity of your brain. So serotonin has a large effect on how we think and how we behave for a long period of time. It's not just a synaptic connector that goes zap. It does long-term connections. So serotonin is the master modulator, as we said. And what it does is it affects large portions of the brain. Most brain chemicals will only affect a certain area or between two portions of the brain. But serotonin has pathways that pervade throughout the entire brain, making it one of the most pervasive chemicals that affects your brain. And not only that, it has the power to regulate huge portions of how you feel within the brain, so that it's doing things to your other chemicals like dopamine. It's giving you energy. It's giving you feelings of contentment and confidence. So it's a very powerful neuromodulator that is present within the brain. So dopamine is serotonin's kind of twin in the motivational scene. But dopamine is different. Dopamine not only drives us towards good things like getting a job done, being motivated to pursue a career, but it also motivates us towards vices and addictions and workaholism and things like that. And if it's the basis of your culture, dopamine is going to push you away from connecting with people and more with connecting with things. So dopamine is controlled by the brain by a down-regulating force. What does that mean? That means instead of getting more and more in dopamine every time you do something, you get less and less dopamine every time you pursue a goal, you take something that you like. Think about it. If you have one truck, a new truck, you get happy. A new car, you get happy. You have 1,000 new cars? That 1,000th new car you'll barely care about. Why? Because dopamine down-regulates in the brain system over time. So this change of down-regulation is actually designed to help us protect us from being too obsessed with the things that dopamine might push you towards. In fact, studies show that rats, when they're in a cage by themselves with a lever that administers dopamine, they'll sit there and be stuck administering the drugs, and they'll be literally addicted to that lever pushing, and they'll push that, and they won't even eat, and they will even pass out and die, pursuing the dopamine upregulation that's caused by hyperstimulation of drugs. But naturally, in the natural world, the brain downregulates so that you don't get stuck in those kind of cycles of being addicted and stuck in them. So what does that mean for us long term? So what happens is serotonin actually regulates dopamine. So instead of getting too much dopamine and hyperstimulating the brain, serotonin allows dopamine to be released within normal, regulatory, healthy cycles. So that means we need to focus on serotonin being something that could be healthy and regulatory for all of the processes that we do. So pursuing goals doesn't become a bad thing. It just doesn't become everything in your life. In fact, serotonin will optimally regulate us towards moving towards our goals and towards other things in life in a healthy way, because it leaves us feeling content and not obsessive, pursuing something like dopamine does.